Welcome to Taking the Higher Road, a DriverReach and FreightWaves production. I'm your host, Jeremy Reymer, founder and CEO of DriverReach, a modern recruiting and compliance software solution. On this show, I interview industry experts and thought leaders who bring their insights to the driver lifecycle as we discuss the industry's greatest challenges, recruiting, retention, and compliance. I appreciate all the positive feedback on the show. Please remember to rate and review Taking the Higher Road, whatever platform you use to listen. This week, I'm honored to be joined by a progressive and innovative industry leader, Gregg Troian, president of PGT Trucking out of Aliquippa, PA. So glad to have you on the show, Gregg.
Thanks, Jeremy, for having me. I'm pretty excited about this. I don't do too many of these, so I'm in your hands.
Well, it's an honor, and there's a lot going on at PGT. I'm excited to dive into all that. You're a recent recipient of the Heavy Duty Trucking Fleet Innovator Award. You're revolutionizing trucking with the future of flatbed, and I'm anxious to learn more about that. You were named one of 2023's best fleets to drive for. You've got a new training facility in Blairsville, PA. You broke ground on a new terminal in Laredo, Texas. You've adopted battery electric vehicles. That's progressive. And while I certainly want to ask you at least to share about those exciting topics, I'd also like to learn more about you. So I'm hoping to get into your background, your journey into the industry and PGT, and learn a little bit about what makes you tick. So and then of course we make sure to answer a question from a listener during our deeper dive segment. Think we can accomplish all that?
It's a long lot to cover in a short period of time, but I'm ready.
It's a lot. And actually, even before we dive in there, as is a custom, I generally ask our guests if there's any book recommendations that they might want to suggest, anything, whether it doesn't have to be recent, but maybe something impactful that you've read that you might want to share with the audience. And this is a total gotcha. I didn't prep you for
this. That's a gotcha. Jeremy, it's crazy. I don't do a whole heck of a lot of reading, but what I've done lately, I find myself doing lately is all of a sudden I have many friends who have decided to write books. It's become, a lot easier to write books and get them published through Amazon and those kind of things. And I think it's really great that people get this opportunity that they might not have been able to get in the past, to be able to express their thoughts and their experiences and publish their own book. So lately I get handed a lot of these books by friends that they wrote. Some of them are pretty deep, some are funny, some are can be inspiring. So I don't have anything in particular. Sorry on that, but I got a lot of these 70, 80 page books, and it takes time to try to even read those, but that's what I've been doing lately when it comes to books. Nothing big.
Well, I'm anxious because you said how easy it is, and I think that's true. That's easier than it's ever been. I'm anxious, especially at the end of this interview, for those who are maybe getting to know you for the first time, are going to be anxious to read your book.
Well, I think I'm going to wait till I retire before.
That's fair. Well, with over 40 years of industry experience, I know you've had various leadership positions across multiple departments. Can you maybe share some key milestones or maybe moments in your career that have shaped your approach to leading PGT today?
Yeah, sure. It probably comes from a combination of my entire professional life experience. I'm actually originally from Pittsburgh. I went a couple of years to college, but I was unfortunate in that there was a draft lottery back then, and my number was 25, and I wasn't a serious enough student to warrant my deferment, I think, too much longer. So I jumped ship and went into the Air Force, and I spent 4 years in the Air Force. And when I came out, I looked for a job, and I found a job in New York on Long Island, working for a trucking company, dispatching trucks in Brooklyn, Queens, Bronx, Manhattan. Real way to start your trucking career. So I was a dispatcher, dispatching those trucks. After a few years, found it necessary to move back to Pittsburgh, which I did, and started because of Pittsburgh and steel and a lot of flatbeds. I wound up getting a job at a flatbed carrier, and worked my way up to operations manager, and started making sales calls. And so operating during the day, I'm making sales calls at night, coming back the next day, doing the same thing again. and I started to feel like I needed to do more. So pushed a little bit, tried working for another company or two in the area, and wound up coming across PGT's founder, Pat Gallagher, even to the extent where we were both competitors. We competed with each other where he would be walking out of a shipper's office or traffic manager's office, and I'd be right behind him, or vice versa, and we were on each other's heels. A friend of ours, mutual friend of ours, recommended we meet, so we had a dinner and exchanged some notes. Did it again a couple of weeks later, and then finally I went to work with Pat in 1986. I think PGT had maybe 45 trucks at the time, and I've been here ever since. We've been able to do a lot of great things together. So if you want to know, for me, if you want to know what really was the key part of my career in unfolding and developing to where I am today, it was the chance of a lifetime to come to work for PGT and work with a guy who had the same kind of feelings and desires and wanted to overcome the challenges that I did. So that was it for me.
It's a long time in the industry. So you said 45 trucks or so at the time, and today you're where?
Combined with all of our companies, we're right at 1,100 power units.
Yeah, that's a fun story, and that's, again, getting back to my point about reading that book someday, especially 40 years in the industry. And you're also you're a recent addition to ATRI's Research Advisory Committee, if I'm not mistaken, and I had the honor of serving on that committee, and that was a lot of fun. I'm just curious, as a member of that Research Advisory Committee now, how do you feel about the opportunity to participate and help address some of those, greatest challenges that the industry faces?
Well, I'm extremely honored, and I, like you said, I feel what a fantastic organization. It just keeps getting better. The information and data that comes out of that organization is invaluable, and to be able to play a part in determining what actually are the challenges that we need to really get into and try to find out what's driving those challenges, so all the carriers can benefit, and actually beyond that, shippers, carriers, government can all benefit from this information to make truck transportation a lot better for us all. But it's a privilege, it truly is.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it, and great relationships being built in that group, and a lot of different viewpoints, which I also really appreciated. I know that you're passionate about the need for the industry to adapt to the needs of today's driver model, right? Particularly a younger audience. Could you maybe elaborate on what specific changes or adaptations you believe are necessary to meet the expectations of this demographic?
Yeah, well, we've got a lot of really good young people working at PGT. Maybe is the most I've ever seen. And when I talk young, I'm talking 20 and early 30s. I guess it's a cliche to say they're the future, but they truly are. And what I love about working with these people is they developed a passion similar to the passion that Pat Gallagher and I had 35 years ago, 40 years ago. And it's just fantastic to see them take on the challenges, take on responsibility, display their comprehension of problems, and most importantly, display their ability to solve problems. And, trucking and probably with a lot of companies, the ability to solve problems is really important. And that means solving them with your own group of people, not always looking for an easy solution by coming to me or coming to somebody else, Pat, or somebody who's been here for so long. It's better they try to solve those problems. And what I see are a bunch of people that are just, they just embrace that so much that it's just fantastic to see. I'm really thrilled. And that is truly for us, when we talk about the future of flatbed, it's not just trucks or technology. It's these young people, how we're going to develop them to take on a future of transportation.
Well, and that's key because I know retention is a big deal too, right? I mean, it's important that bringing people on. I mean, and I do want to get into the training facility in Blairsville because I think that's something, the challenges that companies face of finding or hiring new CDL drivers, getting new entrants into the industry, and then keeping them, creating a path, a career path for them. I know is something that is important to you, to PGT in general. And I know some of, like I said, the most recent news was about that, the Blairsville, PA. And so kind of maybe can you share a little bit about that facility, how it came about? What's your intent behind it in terms of, kind of what are the goals for you in terms of growth and development there?
Well, we've had a facility in Blairsville for about 5 or 6 years now, and it's a maintenance shop. There's some operations that go on there, but mostly it's training and orientation. And we kind of outgrew it, and we also decided we needed to re-energize it, and so we were able to find a facility adjacent to our facility that it was just perfect for what we wanted to do. And so we took the opportunity to move in over there and just re-energize our entire program and bring in new equipment. As you can imagine, with a flatbed, it takes a little extra training with drivers due to the fact that we have to be very particular about load securement and load protection. And with so many different commodities, we handle single steel coils, we handle structural steel, we handle lumber, wallboard, machinery. Sometimes there's no telling what we're going to see when we show up at a particular shipper in terms of what the cargo is and how it's being prepared to be transported by us. So the time we spend training drivers, and by the way, all of our office staff spend a period of time up there actually climbing on trailers and learning to chain and tarp loads as well. But it's so important that we work with drivers so they understand how the technicalities, and there's a DOT way of doing things and there's a PGT way of doing things, which we claim is a little more heavier requirement than DOT. We want to make sure nothing ever comes off a trailer, and we want to make sure we protect the load so we obviously don't have any claims. But that's the core reason to have that facility and to spend the money that we did to upgrade it.
Yeah, and that training, when you're, especially like you said, something with flatbed where there's so many different types of securement, so many variations of cargo that you might be carrying, all the more reason to ensure that you're training them your way, the way that you want it done for those reasons. So, as shared earlier, you were recognized as a recipient of the Heavy Duty Trucking Fleet Innovator Award. Could you highlight some of the innovative practices or technologies that PGT has embraced under your leadership, sort of to revolutionize transportation? And perhaps this is an opportunity to kind of unpack the future of flatbed a little bit, if you would.
Well, yeah, sure. We're based in Pittsburgh, and before the somewhat recent setbacks by autonomous vehicle producers, Pittsburgh was a core center for autonomous vehicles, trucks, cars, etc. CMU has a robotics institute here, and many of the people that went through that robotics institute came out and worked on these autonomous vehicles. Because it was so close, we got involved and we wound up with an alliance with a company called Logomation, which has since shut down, like a few others. But we thought that it was important for us to be a part of that. Coming from Pittsburgh, we saw the value in it. It wasn't something that we thought was going to happen right away. We didn't have any misconceptions about how long it was going to take, but we thought it would be important to align with and work with a company so that eventually at some point in time when these things became marketable, we were at the forefront. Similar situation with Nikola. We began a relationship with Nikola 5 years ago, 4.5 years ago. when there were just drawings on a poster. A personal friend of mine was the CEO, and he invited me out. I was on an advisory board for a while, and I just thought that if this thing is going to work, we want to be a part of it. And a lot of that comes, Jeremy, from the fact that we look at our top 10 customers, and every single one of our top 10 customers has a sustainability commitment. And it just keeps growing in strength and commitment. Many of them go as far as to claim that they have a target date for emitting no carbon in the process of producing their product by a certain date. And that means everything that goes along with making the product, including transporting their products. So we wanted to align with our customers. We wanted to let our customers know that we're with you. We understand it. So we're going to work to try to get environmentally friendly equipment on the road. And so between our belief that electric-powered vehicles, whether it be powered by battery or powered by hydrogen fuel, an electric vehicle, while not replacing diesels entirely, but playing a big role, we wanted to be involved, and we wanted to have some input in development and work with Nikola to overcome some of the obstacles. And we've done that. And so we actually bought our first 2 electric vehicles last week, and they're getting prepped to be on the road. The first one will be on the road next week. You still have a lot of things to overcome. You have to overcome the weight. You have to overcome the obstacle of where to charge. How long does it charge? How long will it run on a charge? But we've got all that worked out. We know you can't buy 50 of these and throw them in your fleet, right? You need to be very specific about where you're going to run this truck based on all those constraints. But it's doable, and I've got some customers that they're really excited about getting one of these into their operation and on the road.
Well, that's really cool. And I have a Tesla. I've had a Tesla for nine plus years, and I say that because 9 years ago, when I bought my first Model S, the infrastructure for charging was sparse. And now it's everywhere. And so kind of to the point, you're almost at the early days of that, technology. And I think you'll only see progress being made in terms of where you can charge them, the distance that they can go, and so on. Obviously the weight concern is always going to be a thing. And I would imagine that the government would, provide for some sort of support and assistance from that.
Well, we do have a little break to get to 82,000 gross with a battery vehicle, but at the same time, the manufacturers are working to get that weight down as well. So combination between some help from the government and some engineering and design involvement can get the truck down to a decent weight.
But very progressive minded, and that's not something that I see as much of as I would wish for. So that's encouraging, and I think it makes sense that you're that the company's acknowledged and recognized as an innovative fleet. You mentioned CMU, and for those who might not know what that is, it's Carnegie Mellon University. I assume you're referring to, which is prestigious school there, and there's a lot of leaders coming out of that school, and a lot of thought leadership that comes out of there as well. So you are in a great spot being right there in Pittsburgh. And while I'm not from Pittsburgh, my father was born and raised in Pittsburgh and went to Duquesne. So
oh yeah, great.
It's just not far away. Now you are. We talked about the facility. I mentioned the facility in Laredo, Texas, and I'm curious, especially there. Borders town. Can you share maybe a little bit about how do you utilize technology, or how do you maintain compliance with various regulations and ensure efficient CDL driver operations in a cross-border environment like that?
Yeah, well, we've been in Laredo for over 20 years. We have about 20 or 25 years ago, we made a decision that part of the future of PGT was to expand our footprint, and back then there was a pretty big initiative for U.S. companies and Mexican companies, as well as Canada, to start doing more North America projects together. So we went down and we rented some property, and we tried to get to know the ins and outs of Mexico. Made a lot of mistakes, cost a lot of money. Probably 50 times we thought we were just going to shut it down and come home. But we persevered, and today we've got a great business in and out of Mexico. We've got great customers. We've got great Mexican partners, which is really crucial to this. You can't send our drivers into Mexico, so you have to have good Mexican carrier partners, and we do. We have that. So after such a long period of time, we decided it was in our best interest to buy property and finally build our own building. And we did that. We bought a property, and we hired our construction contractor, and we broke ground about a month and a half or two ago, and we're underway. We should be operating at least by second quarter of next year. And so it's our continued commitment to service our customers into and out of Mexico. We're pretty excited about it. It's going to be a great facility.
Well, I know you and I spoke, I guess it was 2 or 3 months ago, and I know how passionate you are about the driver. And when it comes to attracting drivers, and it comes to making it easy for them to apply, and especially we were talking about, drivers that are coming, that are in that border area, Spanish speaking as their first language, making it easy for them. And I think that mindset is something that always stuck with me ever since we had that conversation, because it's not common enough, like I said earlier, that I'm hearing people speak like that and understand, look, I'm trying, these are talented people. I want them to work. They're good human beings. I want them to work for me. I need to make it easy for them to engage with me. I need to be able to, obviously there's rules that we have to adhere to, but at the same time, these are capable, qualified employees that I could be employing and building a business with, and giving them a great path for, a career growth and development. And so it was that mindset that I took away from that conversation that really impressed me. So that's really more of not even a question, it's a comment, but I appreciated it.
Yeah, it's important to us, Jeremy, to understand that we have a lot of ethnic groups at PGT who, when they're not in public, when they're home with their families and their friends and at church, they're speaking their native language. And I grew up my grandparents were from Italy, my dad's from Italy, and I grew up in a house where they spoke Italian. When we walked out, everybody spoke English, and so I think we want to embrace that in order to make people feel more comfortable and more part of our family at PGT.
Yeah, that's noble. And I think for those listening, I think they would share that same sentiment. And I know we've just got about a minute left, so I do want to make sure we get into our deeper dive question. And that is a question from one of our listeners. And the question is, with the economy not doing so great, why is it still so difficult to find good CDL drivers? Any thoughts or suggestions there?
Well, good question. I can tell you this. All of a sudden, it's less difficult, probably within the last 60 days. It's become less difficult. What we're seeing is, especially because of van freight being a little less available, we're seeing more drivers who have been typically pulling vans coming over and trying flatbed or inquiring about coming to flatbed. So what I would tell you, it's less difficult. It's not that we've filled every truck so far, but it's less difficult.
Well, and I know, if I could add to that, I know I was at a speaking event, Great West Casualty Insurance, their symposium that they have every year. I was speaking at an event. I was talking to somebody who, I know this person, pretty innovative, progressive-minded, very embracing of technology, and he shared that they actually had drivers sort of a pipeline, of drivers, and they were going about thinking opportunities to upgrade or top grade maybe some of their underperforming drivers. While the point of me saying that, he was telling me about a conversation that he had with one of his peers a slightly smaller fleet, but had not embraced technology whatsoever in their operations, certainly around HR and recruiting. And he had mentioned that that person was really struggling. And the difference, they both are operating in the same market, same area, but just the difference of somebody embracing technology and being more innovative and progressive, making it easier for drivers to apply even, was a big difference. I thought that was pretty telling. The person who didn't have any, they were still operating in paper, for example, and they were the ones that were challenged with hiring drivers. So not surprised, but embracing technology, being innovative, being progressive, those are all things that you certainly personify. And so I appreciate your spending some time with us today. I'm grateful for our partnership and certainly appreciate the example you've set for being innovative and progressive in our industry.
Thank you so much, Jeremy. I appreciate it.
And thanks for joining me for another episode of Taking the Higher Road and for spreading the word to your industry peers. We really appreciate it. Remember, you could submit any questions or comments, including those which may appear on upcoming Deeper Dive segments at podcast@driverreach.com. And don't forget to rate and review Taking the Higher Road, whatever platform you use to listen. Until next time, thank you for taking the higher road.